Hi. So this week, Tony Chambers and Ian Harvey have been giving their evidence at the Thoral inquiry. So Carl and Jabe have both done very good, in-depth and extensive videos about this, so do give them a watch. I mean, Carl was actually at the inquiry for both of them, and it's really interesting what he has to say about how everything goes down there and how everything is managed. Very interesting. So what they've had to say, to be honest, is a bit of a game changer. I mean, information has come out that Breary and Arum, it looked like they were going to be managed out of the hospital. And this was around the time of the grievance procedure. So we can see how things might have taken the turn that they did take. Anyway, that said, today I want to go over some of the comments I've had, because I really appreciate that people have taken the time to comment and say what they think and open up a whole discussion on this. So I just want to go over some of the comments that I've had to basically put this stuff out there, because it's all really good. So Russell Sim 19X, he said, I believe Arum has the same media agent as Paul Brand, who did the sit-down interview with him for ITV. Now, that is interesting, because if this were true, it would have given Arum a bit more of a hand to manage how this interview was presented. I mean, when you do interviews, because I was going to do one for someone, and it ended up being an email back and forth because they couldn't get to where I was. But you plan out the questions that you're going to ask, so you agree what you're going to talk about, and you show the person, these are the questions I'm going to ask, and maybe what time it's going to take. I mean, I did it on an amateur basis, but I think professionals, they do have this planned out. They're not just asking random questions. So yeah. He also says Arum refers to himself, I, me, when seeking sympathy, but always quickly switches to we to seek notional protection of the group whenever he's making accusations, and this has kind of disappeared a little bit because I don't want to move away from this particular screen, but that is a really good observation. And Arum's language, how he presents, it is completely different to anyone else's in this context. And while I'm on that subject, he's had a real tendency to talk, to fill the air with words, in both in court and in the inquiry. And I wonder if there's any legal people here, any barristers or any solicitors. Have you ever had this experience of someone doing this in court? And I don't mean someone who rambles or goes off topic. I mean someone, or even someone who talks a lot. I mean someone who is quite obviously filling up the space with words, filling up the time, filling up the space, taking over, as it were. Have you ever experienced this? And, how do you deal with it? Do you have any strategies? Do you have any sort of things, what to do if we have this sort of client? Or obviously it wasn't the client, because it was the prosecution, or it's the defence lawyer asking him questions. So anyone he might have been in opposition to. But yeah, that would be interesting to know. Okay, so we shall move up a little bit. Apart from Munchausen's, does Evans have a history of diagnosing air embolism? No, I don't know what he has a history of. I know he used to work at Singleton Hospital in Swansea. A strange and really unappealing bloke. So I think he's got some experience, some background, but really not enough for what he's been asked to do. Rebecca 236, could you also analyse Lucy Letby's language? That is a really, really good ask. I was also asked to analyse John Gibbs's language, and I made a start because I thought, yeah, I should sort of look at the other characters in this. So I did Stephen Breary to start with, and that was quite interesting. And I was going to go on to John Gibbs, and then obviously things have moved very, very fast since then, and I would like to get back to that as well, because it could throw up again something interesting that completes the picture. Now, I did have a little look at Lucy Letby's language. So I did mention it when she was speaking at the police and in court. She tended to be very factual, very, to talk a lot about routine, to talk a lot about details, and also hand in hand with her general, how she seems to be as a person. I did wonder if she was on the autistic spectrum somewhere. Carl has wondered that. So I do think that might be a possibility. So with her language, obviously I've looked at her language with the police and with the court, and I looked a bit at her letter, her grievance letter. Again, that was pretty much sticking to the facts, even though she had to write about quite a lot of things, because a lot of things had happened. She did manage to make it quite concise under the circumstances. So she does seem to be, quite a logical, detail, factual person, less creative. She doesn't have what you might call a richness of ideas. Some people have that, some people don't. And it's supposed to be one of the things that can perhaps protect against dementia. They looked at it in a study of nuns, and if you take the two sentences, because the nuns had to write a history of themselves before coming into the convent or on their application. So you would start with when you were born. So you got the two sentences, I was born, da-da-da-da-da, on whenever. Okay, that's factual. But then you could get something like, I came into being. Well, that embodies so much more than just a fact. And that's what I mean by the richness of ideas. Lucy doesn't seem to be that sort of person. She's more factual, I think. Now, there's also the texts that she sent, and the confession notes. A very, very good rundown has been done of those by a couple of people, and they've shown very, very clearly what was intended, because Lucy kind of wrote things put together on what are they called? Post-it notes, which is a bit unusual, but sometimes people will do stuff like that. And she'll put things like next to each other instead of following a line or straight down. So you can get words, you can get sentences running into each other, and they look like one thing, but you can see they're two separate bits of writing. So have a look at those videos, because they do clearly explain what she has written, what she has meant by it. And there's also her texts and emails to her colleagues and to Dr. A. She does seem to be a bit idealistic, and a black and white thinker, and that would tie in with the autism picture. So it is a case of if I got time, because things really have turned on their head with Tony Chambers and Ian Harvey giving their evidence, and things I think are moving in another direction now, and really quite quickly. So let's go up a bit more. Something about snakes. And then DMG Soul Togetherness 6667. Someone should also look into these words that came up time and time again. Then it's bound to influence the trial. And yeah, they've mentioned words to do with murder and death and what have you. And that is a very, very good point, because Breary and J. Arum, very early on, they raised concerns. So concerns were raised early, but acted upon very late. And what I'm meaning by that is there was a lot of suggestions, a lot of talk, but also a lot of sitting on information and like being too afraid to go to the police, if you believe that one, and seeing things that weren't recorded, and then there's this big push and going to the police quite a long time after. And in that meantime, obviously things were said, things went around, because you had Lucy Letby being called Nurse Death. So these words, these suggestions were going round and round and round, percolating and cooking. And if you say something often enough and loud enough, if something is just present as a suggestion for long enough, then it can end up, just being taken as fact. And I think looking into the frequency of certain words I think that is a really, really good idea. Whose words we would look into is interesting. But you could have words like, you know, Nurse Death. Well, where did this come from initially? Dr. Arum had a corridor conversation. Okay, so where did Dr. Arum get it from? So it's kind of tracing it back to source. So that is a very good suggestion. Oh yeah, Tasha. I wonder if they randomly audit cases. If not, they should do. I'm assuming this means cases of collapse. And I think, yeah, like random auditing of patients. Like you just turn up one day and, you know, just check on someone, I don't know, not necessarily even if something bad has happened, like they died or anything, just randomly check on their care notes, on their condition, on their reporting, on their medicines. I think that could be a really good idea going forward. What else? Yeah, so we've got a mention of, Chinese whispers. I think there was Chinese whispers going on here. So what Arum did or didn't see. Yes, Aaron Powell at the meeting with Dr. Breary, and I think that was the one Ian Harvey or Tony Chambers and Alison Kelly was at, and where Dr. Breary he never said not like nice Lucy. He might genuinely have thought it, because I did notice in the video that he did show emotion at that point. But for sure he never said it, because two people who were in the meeting said no, he absolutely never said that. There is a Lucy Letby appeal on Google for anyone who wants to sign that. And also Richard Gill has made an interesting comment about with witch hunts and bullying. He says they start with well-intentioned persons and an unlucky constellation of personalities and events, and that's the thing. It can be a complex situation. I mean, it can be like the whole idea of a Portuguese man o' war. So that big jellyfish that is multiple organisms. So it could be and the witch hunt might not even you know, be carried out by the person who started it off. So I mean, some of us might have been on the end of bullying or seen it at close hand, and what you get is people sort of ending up clumping together for different reasons, wanting different outcomes, and you know, some people may end up just dragged into it. So it's not a simple thing, and it can be complex, and it can sort of go off in a direction that it was never intended to go off in. So yeah, we really need to be aware of that. So yeah, once again, thank you so much for all your comments. Do keep them coming, because it's really good to keep the discussion going. Anyway, please like, subscribe, hope to see you in the next video.